Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Well, I don't see the point in waiting any longer. So let's bring her out. The star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Everyone, welcome to Kill Me Now. It's a very special edition of Kill Me Now because I'm so fucking excited. I'm so excited. I know our guest from my previous life as a wife. Well, we weren't legally married, but we both lived in the same complex here in Provincetown. You might know her not from Provincetown. You might know her from the greatest book ever written. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, privilege. I am humbled to welcome the one and only Mary Trump is here, everyone. Woo!
Hi, guys.
Mary, I fucking love you. I loved you before, but I just want to say, so first of all, the podcast is Kill Me Now, and we're both having a Kill Me Now kind of day. So
Yes.
here's my Kill Me Now moment for today is that I got this thing to hang the pots and pans, you know, like, because there's no fucking space in here.
Chef's rack.
Yeah, whatever. You have more words than I do. All right, so you have the best. That's when your book came out. You know what I tweeted? Mary Trump has the best words. So I got this thing so I can hang all the pots and pans and act like I really am a chef. Anyway, so my friend Kate, who lives across the playground, is like, oh, yeah, I can help you with that. And like, do you have a drill? And so I said, yeah, I got the drill. Anyway, she puts it up and I'm like, wait, I have to put the things to hang the pots off, you know, the loops, and they didn't fit right. And I look at the cover and she installed it upside down. Okay. So now one of the brackets is left because we can't get the screw out of the fucking wall. So I want to fucking kill me now with the fucking bracket. Now I have to call the fucking property manager to come and fix it. Okay. And now you just landed at your house and you went to get your cat because, you know, it's part of the LGBT, you know, if you're a lesbian, I mean, I had cats.
If you're a card carrying one anyway.
Yeah.
So,
I am a card carrying, but I don't have any, but you also have, Marilla, you have a parrot and a gecko.
A leopard gecko and an African gray parrot. Yes.
No dog. Have you ever had a dog?
I'm a cat person. I love dogs.
Yeah.
I love them, but they're so much work, you know, and I don't really have a lot. I don't have a big backyard. And,
Right.
you know, pre-COVID, I traveled. You know, I actually almost got my daughter a puppy during COVID, and I'm glad I didn't.
Right.
Because, you know.
Well, I have a new joke, Mary, in my act, and it's that Lisa, that's the Jew bell, by the way. Anything remotely Jewish gets a ring. So, Elisa and I were like, I was like, oh, I really want to get a dog. And so we were talking about it. So here's my new joke. Elisa and I were talking about getting a dog. I want it to be a rescue. She wants it to be a couples therapist. Good night, folks. Okay. Okay. So, Marilla, thank you for doing this. I kind of want this interview to sort of be about you because I think you're so interesting. And like, if we start at the beginning, like, you know, you read your book and
I thought you meant primordial ooze.
No,
okay.
yes.
So fast forward.
But, you know, it's like your childhood. There's some normal things about it, right? But the abnormal things are so fucking crazy. Like, yeah. It's like, it's not the regular dysfunction of a dysfunctional family. It's that plus Dallas. I don't know. It's like you're the first grandchild of your grandparents.
I'm the third. I'm the first granddaughter.
Daughter. That's right. I wrote granddaughter, and and I know that they really value women in your family, so that's great. So
that's why I have so much self-confidence.
Yeah. So you grew up in a kind of cool part of Queens, right?
Yep.
So at what age do you feel like you knew, okay, my family is not like everyone else's family?
That's a really good, I don't think it was this sudden revelation. It was little moments along the way because, I went to the same camp starting when I was 6. I went to the same school starting when I was 6. People in my family before me had gone to the camp and the school. So everybody knew. It was like, and also when I was growing up, it was my grandfather who was known, and nobody outside of New York knew who he was.
Right.
And also the camp I went to, it's not like I was, there weren't other people.
It was a sailing camp, right?
It was a sailing camp, but there were people that are a lot richer than, and it wasn't that kind of camp. It wasn't like a fancy. Were there a lot of Jews there? No, it was very waspy, but you'll be shocked to know that almost every single one of my friends there was Jewish.
Okay. Yay. Okay. So your father was a pilot.
Yep.
Your mother was a flight attendant?
My mother was a flight attendant. When they started dating, she was a flight attendant. He became a pilot 2 or 3 years later. This was all before I was born, though.
Right.
Because it was the early 60s. She had to quit her job when she got married.
Right. Can you fucking believe that shit? It's when I think back, all right, you're born in 65. I'm born in 62. Like I didn't know that women couldn't get credit cards without or own property. I feel like the misogyny in this country is the next that we're dealing with systemic racism now.
Yep.
But the systemic misogyny is the next big fucking hurdle.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay, so they get married.
Oh, and by the way, after she wanted to keep working.
Right.
To her credit. So she got a job. They lived in Sutton Place first, and she got a job as a receptionist or something. And unfortunately, like a lot of people back then, she got pregnant almost right away.
Right.
And had to quit that job as soon as she started showing because otherwise they would have fired her.
Right.
So, couldn't catch a break.
Yeah, that's fair. But they seem like they had a love affair. Like when I read your book, that they did love each other.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it there was definitely attraction. They're both extremely good looking people.
Yes.
I'm not objective, but my father was one of the most handsome people who's ever lived. And my mother was extremely attractive. So I think it was sort of that surface thing.
Yeah.
Also, he's incredibly funny and charming. And she was very much, she thought he was extremely funny.
Right.
Also attractive. But, they were in their early 20s.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Now when someone says, oh, I'm turning 30, and I'm like, you're a fucking baby. My parents got married. My parents were 41 and 48 when I was born.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, and and Elisa, her parents were 21 and 22. And it was our life experiences are so different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's so interesting because you're sort of being brought up by, children. Okay. So in school, were you popular? Were you?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the school I went to was this big, there were, it was grades 1 through 12. There were 350 kids in the whole school.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And grades 1 through 6, there were 20 people in my entire grade. So
did you have extracurricular activities or in the school, within the school?
Yeah. Yep. We had, we called it the gravel pit, but it's where we had our sports. But yeah, I was an athlete. I played 3 sports.
What'd you play?
Well, first field hockey and then soccer.
Oh God, that is the dykiest of dykeness. Okay.
Wasn't my fault. It was the only sport available.
Okay.
And then they switched to soccer.
I played field hockey too. Good.
Field hockey was fun, actually, but I like soccer better.
Yeah.
Basketball and softball, but it was, again, the only spring sport we had. So everybody
I might have to get a lesbo bell, but we'll keep that. Okay. Yeah. And so did you basically just socialize with the kids from that school? Was that your like friend base?
Yeah, because I lived in Jamaica and had to take like a 20-minute subway ride to get to school. So, and nobody lived in Jamaica because of all the black people, because that's how people said the word black. As
I know.
It had, Anyway, so I was perfectly comfortable with it, but like some of my friends' parents weren't, and it was just a thing. So I spent most of my time in Forest Hills, and get your bell ready. My school was like 75% Jewish. So that's also another reason, like, I didn't quite entirely understand my family's anti-Semitism.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's so many prominent Jews in their world, and yet the hatred of, I don't know. And they all went. This is a school that your whole family went to, right?
Yeah, well, my dad, of course, didn't for some reason. I don't know why. But everybody else did, I think. And Donald had to leave because he misbehaved. But
what?
Yeah.
Wait.
I know.
I know. I'm salts out. Anyone? Okay.
I'm so glad you're sitting down to hear that he misbehaved. Yeah, so he went off to the military academy. But yep, my whole family, my cousin, my oldest cousin went there. Obviously, Donald's kids didn't go there.
Right.
My brother went there for all 12 years. I left after sophomore year.
Yes, to go to, yes.
Yep, to go to.
So you went to.
All girls boarding school, which was really a bad idea, but who knew? I just wanted to run away without actually running away.
Right. So you were pretty happy, right? You kind of knew, did you know, like, when do you think you knew, oh my God, my grandparents are really fucked up?
I loved school. I loved camp more than anything.
That makes you part Jewy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't understand this because, again, the camp I went to was very waspy.
Right.
So I live in, unfortunately, Long Island right now, in a very Republican, mostly Irish Catholic town. And it's like this weird idea these people have that sending your child away to summer camp is horrible parenting. But of course, the Jews do that.
Right.
What are you fucking talking about? Oh, shit. I just swore twice. I can swear, right? Have we been swearing?
Oh my God, I fucking fuck, cunt, dick.
I don't even know why. Because, I'm on a bunch of these prim and proper shows, and it's...
I have a joke in my act about, that we send the kids to camp, and then all the parents are like, oh, how can you do that? And then like a week later, you're in the grocery store with them and they're like, when is school starting? And so, but it is an interesting thing because for my kids, like I hated camp because I was really tall and everyone was mean to me. But for my kids, those people are like, that's 7 weeks. Did you go for 7 weeks, 6 weeks? 8. Woo.
At 6.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But it teaches you so much stuff, negotiating, living, it's really, and you're outdoors and I don't know. The friends that my kids have from camp are like brothers to them, 2
of my best friends I met at camp, one when I was 7 and one when I was 12.
See, there you go.
Yeah. And what was I going to do? Like play in parking lots in Jamaica, Queens all summer?
Right.
Because honestly, my 2 best sports are sailing and archery, which you didn't.
What?
I know. I'm a nerd, but you don't get to play those at school.
Right.
So, you have like experiences you never had. And it's not for everybody. I understand that, but to suggest that it's a failure of parenting. Want your kid to have, like, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Right. Of course.
And I literally can't imagine my life without it. So it's a little judgmental.
Right.
Because you're right. I mean, it teaches you so much. You develop these incredible friendships.
And skills. Life skills.
Oh my God. Life skills, regular skills,
Right. And learning how to fucking deal with the world without your parents breathing down your neck.
And in a very, very safe, controlled environment.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Did your brother go to camp too?
He went to the same camp, but when we started, it was separate campuses. It was co-ed, I think, in 77 or 76 or something. But he didn't stay as long. I was there for 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was incredible. And I think that's maybe part of the reason I wasn't as affected by my family as I might otherwise have been.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing about my family is I think it's like every other family in the sense that you're in it and it seems perfectly normal.
Right.
And, we all have things that our friends never know about us.
Right.
That go on behind closed doors. So it's not like my friends noticed anything or, ever thought to ask about it because it was all just normal. And it wasn't until I was in college that Donald started getting known outside of New York and people would start, if I ever paid with a check. By the way, the kids, that's a thing that comes in a book that you pay bills with. Use a check or pay with a credit card. That's when people started asking me, so you're related?
Right.
Nobody asked me that anymore, by the way.
Right. I asked you that when I first met you.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I said, what I remember is, I don't think it was the first thing I said, but I remember asking you and you said, yeah. And I said, I hate him. And you go, not as much as I do.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah, because I remember saying, I don't like him. And you're like, neither do I. Okay. So you went, then you beg to go to a boarding school. Do you think that was a coping mechanism? Like, I got to get the fuck out of here?
Yeah.
And your grandfather, like, there were some things that you took, like, you mentioned a scene where your grandmother opens the door and she's wearing an apron. And I was like, what? Like, I never imagined her wearing an apron. Like cooking or doing anything. Like, this whole vision of, servants and no, we don't do that. No,
they had a live-in maid. When I was a kid, it was Marie.
Did you like Marie?
She didn't really like us because we were kids and we were loud and she tried to stay out of our way.
Right.
And she lives in this little room in the attic. It's like, oh my God, you people.
Right.
Like such a cliche. But other than that though, like nothing. No. And my grandfather always had a chauffeur, but he was a terrible driver. It had more to do with that, I think. And it was his one pretension, but no cooks, no butlers, no summer houses.
Right.
No traveling. My grandmother sort of prided herself on, doing the cooking and doing the shopping. My grandmother got mugged in 1990 because she drove her friggin' Rolls Royce to a grocery store in Flushing, Queens to go grocery shopping.
Oh my God.
Look, I don't even want to do my grocery shopping.
Right.
And she was already in her 70s. Okay, whatever. So anyway, yeah, they both she and my grandfather lived. I guess it's not unusual. They live like people who experience the Depression.
Right.
My grandfather's very German mother was quite austere.
Right.
In her way. So I guess being flashy was frowned upon.
Yeah.
So, it had to skip a generation,
right.
I guess, unfortunately for the rest of us.
There's one thing I so relate to you as a little girl, like there's so much bike riding. That is so much my childhood, just getting on a bike and riding your fucking bike. And it was like freedom,
Totally.
And there's so many scenes where you get on your bike and go visit your grandparents and it seems so fucking normal.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with a Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
you then decide, okay, I got to get the fuck out of here. You went on a tour of all these schools, right?
Yep.
Now, when your parents got divorced, and did anyone talk about it in the family, or?
You know, it's interesting. My mom actually sent us to therapy.
I love your mother. Okay. Right now, I love her.
Yeah, absolutely. However, what was interesting about that though, I was 5, and like I didn't
5
when they got divorced.
Yeah, I just can't believe. Yeah, so you go to therapy. Just was it separate or family?
Well, it was me and my brother together, and it was weird because it was the therapist she and my father had gone to, and they had gone there to work it out. And he told my mother separately that she should get out of the marriage, which seemed odd.
Right.
So what was weird about it though was that like my dad's leaving like didn't bother me.
Right.
I didn't really even notice, you know?
Right.
Like, okay, there's no fighting now. Hooray. Right. So although, I mean, to be fair, it was good to have that experience normalized because suffice it to say, I've seen my fair share of therapists.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So you go on this, you tour all these schools. You only have 3 weeks, right?
Yep.
And the Ethel Walker School.
Yep.
Why did you pick that school?
I had a counselor at camp.
Oh, done.
Yes. Whom I'd known like since I was 7, I think.
Right.
And I mean, for all I know, she's like 4 years older than I am, but I thought she was like 40 years older.
Oh, yeah, always. Right? Yeah.
So, you know, she was a phys ed teacher and coach at Ethel Walker. And
is she a member of our party?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, really? I love straight phys ed teachers. They're an anomaly to me. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not aware of any relationship.
Yeah. No, I know.
But,
yeah.
So who knows? But she put the idea into my head, and like I knew that I wasn't happy, although of course I never would have articulated that to anybody. So it was more like, oh, you know, I want to broaden my horizons. Q Forest has like 3 people in it. You know, I've been there forever. I want to move on. I want a place with better facilities, what have you. And I, you know, Ethel Walker was on the list because of Dunn, and she talked it up and said it was great. And I visited. It's amazing. It's like 60 acres.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, like Q Forest could have fit in the quad of Ethel Walker. So I actually legitimately loved the school, and but they didn't have room for me. I got in, but they didn't have room for me. So I kept looking, and it was still my first choice. And literally, like I don't know, 3 days before the semester started, they found a double that they could turn into a triple.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
you must have been thrilled.
I was actually, because one, I totally wanted to run away from the situation because my dad hadn't been doing well and my brother had gone off to college and it was kind of just me.
Right.
Or I should say failing to negotiate everything. Right. And, you know, it's really also hard to be an adolescent in a school you've been at since you were 6.
Yes.
With the same 20 people.
Right.
Yeah. So I was happy to be running away, but I was also, it was an incredible school and I thought it would be a really good opportunity for me. It ended up not being so because my dad died 2 weeks after I started.
I know. That is the fucking... All right. So you get to school. Did you like your roommates?
They were okay.
All right. My son went to Northfield Mount Hermon.
Oh, okay.
To play basketball.
I think that's one of the schools I visited. Yeah.
Really?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
He plays basketball for Tulane now.
I heard 6'8".
So,
wait, are they actually playing?
Yeah, he's got practice. Like they're practicing every day. Well, he already got the COVID.
Okay. So, wow. So did Avery.
Really?
Mm-hmm. She was
all the kids have gotten it.
But before, like, we even knew what it was. She got
really
cool, and then we didn't know that that's what it was until she got the antibody test and tested positive.
Did you? And you didn't get it?
No, I'm the only person who didn't, though. My ex did. My Avery's stepdad got it.
Really?
Oh, the first 3 weeks were hell. just as for most people.
Yeah,
but it was,
it is.
yeah,
It's
I know
awful.
I was quarantined in my basement. It
Right.
was upstairs. It was like, the plague.
Yeah.
As it was.
No, it's going away. So,
Sure.
and so you're new at this school. So all the other kids already knew each other and you're just navigating your way. And then Dunn comes in and says, look, in a weird way, come here. You're watching a movie. You're the wrong film.
Yeah.
I love that story. And she's like, come here. And she tells you to call your family, you call your grandfather. He doesn't do it. Anyway, and you find out your father died. And first of all, the shock, I know when it's sudden, my father died suddenly too. And I'm not expecting it. I have to say, I prefer the not expecting it to the long drawn out. I'm going to say, because my mother was a long getting sick. My father was swimming. He had a heart attack. So I'm going to go with short death. Thank you. So the most shocking part of that story is that you had to take a Greyhound bus home alone after your father. Like, what the fuck? That is beyond. That no one accompanied you, that no one said, I'm going to go pick up Mary. Like, that is beyond fucked up.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I mean, also, by the way, it wasn't sudden with my dad. He had been sick, just never bothered to tell me. So,
right.
Oh well. And he wasn't sick. It wasn't like with your mom. He wasn't sick for a long time. It was a couple of weeks, but it was a couple of weeks I was at boarding school and could have said goodbye to him. But yeah, and the other thing too that I because when things happen and you're a kid, you think, okay, adults that they know what they're doing.
Right, of course. You trust them.
Just the fact that they didn't have me go to like the dean of students office to have this phone call.
Right.
My dad I was in a stairwell on a payphone.
That you went to the fucking I was like thinking of my dorm in college. Like you went to the payphone that they didn't say, come in, here's a safe place for you to. The fuck?
But you're right. The Greyhound bus is a little worse.
And no one's like, is someone going to get Mary? Her father? No one's like,
well,
let me pick her.
They did pick me up from Port Authority.
Oh, God, shut the fuck up. Was that bus ride hell?
You know what? I didn't sleep the whole night before because I was in shock and I was shivering the whole night. So I literally sat down in the bus seat and remembered nothing. Like I blacked out, which was good.
Right.
So
I think Walkman were just out at that time. So.
And sorry?
I think Walkman had just come out around that time. So, like, if you didn't have one, you were fucking sitting
there thinking of horrible thoughts. So, no, I just passed out, fade to black. And I think luckily it was the last stop. Otherwise, I probably would have ended up in, I don't know, Zimbabwe or something. I have no idea. Maybe that would have been better. Who knows?
So, there's all these struggles with your father's, because he didn't want to be buried. They ended up burying his ashes. Any one of his needs or wants or desires was always fucking shot down. But yet you seem like, you seem to have some agency at that time. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not what he wants.
Yeah.
Do you think your grandparents changed after that? I mean, like losing a child did you ever see a difference in them afterwards?
In my grandfather, not at all. I mean, I totally honest with you, he couldn't have cared less. Actually, he was probably relieved to be done with his 42-year-old son.
Right.
No, not a tear. I don't even recall his ever mentioning my father again.
No way.
Oh yeah, there were no remember when Fred?
Yeah.
None of that. My grandmother seemed genuinely upset, and I thought she was until years later when it seemed that she didn't particularly. I mean, it's just bizarre because it seemed like she loved him. They seemed to get along. He could make her laugh like nobody else on the planet. And yet, clearly the fact that he died a not particularly wealthy person diminished him in her eyes, I guess.
Right.
So who knows? I mean, I
If
thought she
you-
loved me too, but I don't think she did.
If you had to like give a diagnosis to your grandfather for his, what do you think?
You know, it's complicated. I think you could make a case for a bunch of different diagnoses.
But do you the no empathy?
Yeah. I mean, you know, part of the issue too is that there's something called malignant narcissism,
Yeah.
which I haven't looked at the latest version of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, but it was not in the last one. I don't think it is yet a diagnostic criteria. But that's sort of a combination of narcissism, anti-personality disorder, which people typically refer to as sociopathy.
Right.
So paranoia is a hallmark of malignant narcissism. So basically, you know, with personality disorders, they all exist along a spectrum, just like anxiety, depression, or what have you. So we're talking about somebody who falls at the extreme end of all of these spectrums. Yeah. So it kind of doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, you call him a malignant narcissist, a sociopath, a psychopath, a narcissist. He's destroying our country, and he's willfully, through willful inaction, killing Americans every day.
Do you think that your grandfather had the same fucking mental health as him?
You know, it's hard to say, because the reason Donald's as bad as he is because he's in the position he's in.
Yeah, he's such a fucking asshole.
Right. But a fucking asshole who's just in his little mom and pop store in Manhattan is very different from, you know, somebody like him in the Oval Office who's so enabled, right?
Right.
I think my grandfather was just a born stone cold sociopath.
Wow.
You know, I mean, you can't look at how he treated his children, and especially my dad. He literally dismantled my father and destroyed him for no reason except that, you know, he was charming, smart, funny. People loved him, and he had skills that didn't include real.
He was the identified patient when he was really not. See how good I am? I want to do a game. What do you think about this? We do a game show where people come on and they talk about like fights they have with their friends, and then we have to diagnose what mental disorder the friend has. Okay, so come on, that'd be so good. We're going to go with borderline personality. So Dr. Trump says borderline personality disorder.
So you had to get 2 out of 3 on the panel agreeing.
Yes.
And then depending what the diagnosis is, like we could have white-coated men waiting in the sidelines.
And then we bring the person out like, guess what?
Straight jacket. Yep.
Yeah. You're bipolar too. Take care. We'll be right back after these messages.
I love it.
So you go back to school and is it different?
Oh my God. It was horrible.
And were people like, oh my God, her father died? Blah, blah. Like, I remember when people's parents died in high school, and I was like, I'm overly empathetic to the point of like, you know, like I'm overly sentimental. So you go back, are you branded at like, oh, here's father?
I mean, I was very hypersensitive about it. Like I remember the night my dad died, I kept saying, because I actually spent the night on the floor in Dunn's living room because she was an on-campus faculty person. And I kept saying, I don't want anybody to know. Don't tell anybody.
Wow.
Like nobody's going to find us out. And I'll just come back and it'll be fine. And I was only away for like 2 days. So, you know, maybe I could have kept that secret. But I was really, really hypersensitive about it. And that's when I just developed the habits of sarcasm and smoking.
You're a Jew. Right? You're a Jew, I'm telling you.
I am an honor. Passover is my favorite holiday. So.
Your father, which I love, joined the Jewish frat at his college, the same frat that my son was in at IU.
He was in Sigma Alpha.
Sammy, nice. Sammy, baby.
Sammy.
Did anyone say anything to him like, why are you joining the Jew frat? Because
probably.
All right. And you talk about, and
he was such a wasp. I mean, you cannot mistake him for anything else.
Right. He was really handsome. I mean, like you look at those photos and perfect long body, like sinewy sort of
clothes just tearing off in perfect. I mean, seriously.
You know, you can, if you look at it now, you can see why they were all like, ew, you know, we have to put you down because you're so much better than all of us, you know?
Yeah, well, that was the problem.
Yeah. So you graduate. Now, were you a really good student all through grammar school and high school? Because you're
I was.
genius. Yeah.
Actually, I was until, you know, not surprisingly, junior year when, you know, I was able to do well in things like history and English, which were my best subjects anyway, but things that required building on knowledge like math, physics, French were harder because like I couldn't think straight.
Right.
But, you know, I got into Tufts, so
I know, that's where Elisa went. Woo! You were at school together.
God. Like at the same time?
Well, when did she graduate? She graduated in 83.
Okay, that's when I started.
Yeah.
This week's episode of It's Judy Show with Judy Gold is sponsored by BetterHelp. And if you know me, which I think you do because you're listening to my podcast right now, you know that I am a big advocate for therapy. I think it benefits everyone. I think there's so many people who need it, who don't partake. It is so important for your emotional health and well-being. Therapy is fantastic. It is in every stretch of the imagination. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, please do it. But please give BetterHelp a try. It is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's flexible. It suits your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. I have switched therapists in my life. I've had many, many therapists, and you know, sometimes it's not a great fit for you, but don't give up. Therapy is beneficial. You can learn about yourself, you can process, and just be emotionally healthy. I'm telling you, do it. BetterHelp is great because, you know, when I used to schlep to my therapist's office, it was so annoying. You have to do it, and you sit there and you wait, and then I'm telling you, doing it online is fantastic. And BetterHelp is amazing. I know a lot of people who've used it. So if you're thinking about therapy, go to betterhelp.com. Let the gratitude flow. This is gratitude month, people. So you need to let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/JudyGold, JudyGold, today, and you will get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/JudyGold. You're welcome.
When did you realize that you were a lessee? I remember when you realized that you could never tell anyone was when your grandmother called Elton John a faggot.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I talk about this a lot. Like, like I knew I was gay, like 3, I was like, what the fuck is wrong? Like and not until you're an adolescent do you realize,
right.
But what do you think it is that you know that you can't tell anyone? Like no one, there's something weird. Like my family never said anything about gay people or black people, you know, like they just didn't say, they weren't like that. So, but I knew I couldn't tell, like, what is that?
I think it's whether we realize it or not, we hear stuff in the media.
Right.
Or back then it could have been just never hearing anything.
Right. There's no representation.
No representation, you know, or you hear about some experience and, you know, that's shameful or.
Right. Like, oh, I heard someone's, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I first, I had a crush when I was 12 on somebody at camp, and it freaked me out that I just like decided not to think about it ever again. Because that always works.
That works really good. If you just decide to compartment, say, nope, not going to think about it, it goes away.
It does. It does. Which is why when I was in college. So
you didn't act upon that at all.
No. Mm-mm.
Isn't it so awful being like a little lesy girl and you're in this, like, because I went to camp, because you're always around girls, especially our age. They always separated boys and girls. Mm-hmm. And you're having feelings for like this, and you can't tell anyone. And it's like, it's so weird knowing that you have a crush on a girl. And then when I remember getting jealous when they would interact with other, like, oh, I'm going out with my other friends. And I'm like, it's just fucking awful that we can't process that. So you had this crush, you didn't act on it, and then you just fucking forgot about it, or?
Oh, I never forgot about it.
I mean, like you just said.
Yeah. And, then look, there was a lot of other stuff going on. And then my dad died when I was 16, which kind of like, who knows what would have happened at Walker's? I don't know.
I know. I was thinking, whoa.
No. And then,
well, did you know anyone there who was lesying it up at Walker's? Like, did you hear any rumors like so-and-so is?
Yeah, but it wasn't a thing. Like, it wasn't.
Wow.
Like, okay. Yeah. I wasn't exactly plugged into things.
Right.
Because I kind of checked out mentally for most of junior year anyway. So, in college was sort of a continuation. I'd wanted to take time off in between, because I knew I wasn't doing well, so in between
emotionally.
Yeah. I mean, I'd never dealt with my dad. Nobody did ever.
So you know what? So your mother didn't say maybe you should go to therapy again?
Well, I actually had to leave about a month after he died because I was unraveling.
Right.
So I went home. I was home from like mid-October to I went back after Thanksgiving. And, I saw the same therapist I had seen after my
when you were 5?
I'm like, wait a second. And he keeps popping up. Like, you guys realize we're in New York.
Right. Hello. Yeah. He's not the only, was he Jewish?
No, he was, well, I'm not sure if he was or not. But he was South African.
He could have been, yeah.
He could have been. His name was, let's give him that. But you probably don't want him, though. He was awful. So, yeah, I saw him again. And then he said to me, maybe you should take the rest of the year off. And I'm like, I'm fine. Bye.
Right.
Because, no.
Yeah.
So I was not allowed to take a year off between high school and college. So it was just sort of a continuation of the same stuff. And
so you get into Tufts, which is a fucking great school. Was that your first choice?
No.
Really?
Really? I know that's obnoxious. I don't mean it to be.
No, it's fine.
It's the only school I got into.
It's such a good school. It's a fucking great school.
I know. And I'm lucky I got in because I didn't. Oh, wait. I didn't have a safety. So I was very lucky because, I applied to Yale and Brown and Berkeley and whatever. But anyway.
All right. So you go to Tufts and you're back. Do you have a roommate? Are you having a college experience or
I had a shockingly good first semester considering my roommate and I didn't get along.
What, was she Jewish?
She was, but that's not why.
Okay, I just want to ring the bell.
No, her name was Buffy.
Okay, her name was Buffy? What the fuck is that? Okay.
It was confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, and, it wasn't her. I wasn't exactly together. Right. And also, I had neglected to fill out the form. So if I had, we would never have been roommates.
Right, matched together.
Not smoking,
Yeah.
But I was in a suite, so I had other friends. And, I had a strangely good first semester academically, socially. And then for whatever reason, it just kind of unraveled. So I dropped out of school second semester freshman year.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was out for about a year and a half. And there was a tragedy I lost somebody close to me about a year later. And I was like, you know what? I need to go back. This is ridiculous. I was an assistant manager at Barnes & Noble.
You
Florida.
were?
I was.
Which one?
71st Continental.
Oh my God. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Remember? It was right across the street from there were 2 bookstores.
Yeah.
on the same block, right across the street from each other, because that's when we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you came back, when you were off for that year and a half, what was the family like? Ugh, or was it like, was your mother supportive? Like,
yeah, but it was really isolated. Like none of my friends were some,
Right.
It was tricky. So I decided to go back to college because that's what I needed to do. And that's when my grandfather told me I should be a receptionist and go to trade school.
Oh, that's such good advice.
Yeah, it was perfect for me because I wanted to get a PhD in English literature.
Yeah. So I love that you went to Tufts and then you went to Columbia and got your master's, and it's all English literature. And it's just so fascinating how you got to this path of becoming a doctor. First of all, I also have to say one other thing, because I'm looking at my notes, is that the fact that you used to play Monopoly with your friends and lose every fucking time is fucking hilarious. Okay. So,
it actually, you know what? Like, it's so perfect that happened.
Right.
Because who could make that up? Right.
It's so funny. And then you were borrowing money and you still, also I love that your grandmother made that joke about when your father was supposed to get a heart valve and it was going to be a pig valve. And
that was my mother.
Oh, that was your mother. That's right. Your mother, mom.
My grandmother would never.
That was I love that she said, it's a good thing you're not kosher. And I love that your grandmother was choking at the dinner table.
Do you really?
And that no one got up. Like, just because it's like, you can't make this shit up. You're all sitting at dinner, your grandmother's choking, and no one says anything. Okay. So,
and my dad saves her.
Yeah, your dad saves your life. Yeah. Okay. So get your master's degree, and it's William Faulkner. Is that who really had an effect on you? The Thompson family that he used in his work. Is what made you go from English literature to psychology?
Well, first of all, I was always a reader. So I grew up reading every book of science fiction I could get my hand on.
Well, Donald's a reader too.
Yes, we have that in common.
Yeah.
We really do. We talk about that all the time.
Literature, yeah.
You can imagine how fascinating those conversations are. I miss them. I miss them.
I bet. And he had a book club too. Yeah. Go ahead.
With one book. They read the same book.
Mein Kampf. I think it was called Mein Kampf.
No, I was going to say The Art of the Deal, but
right. Yeah, right.
It's such a best.
He wrote that too, right?
Yes, of course he wrote it, and it's the best-selling book other than the Bible.
That's right, baby. Okay, so how do you get interested in this psychology thing?
Literature is psychology,
right?
In its way, and at Columbia at the time, unfortunately for me, deconstruction was the most, I don't know, popular. I don't know what word to use to describe it, but everything was from the perspective of deconstruction and wasn't really my thing. But I took a course on psychoanalytic theory, which was really interesting. I'd always been interested in psychology because I was in therapy constantly from the time I was 16, specifically in psychoanalysis. And then I had no interest in being a psychologist. So unfortunately, it's not some great story about how I wanted to figure my family out. I actually got disinherited and thought, oh, wow, I need to have a better plan than that. Because I always wanted to write, but it's not exactly, I don't know, it's probably as secure a living as stand-up.
Right. Oh, yeah, stand-up. Right. You're such a fucking great writer. It's you're amazing. The way you paint these pictures, like the way it's beautiful. I mean, you are such a fucking great, you have to write more shit. So the Compson family, I try to do as much research on my guests as possible. This is a faux family that William Faulkner used in his work. But they were a once prominent family. Do you think that's sort of how you a reason you grasped onto his work? And that...
You know what's interesting? I read The Sound and the Fury for the first time as a junior in high school. I will be forever grateful to my junior year English teacher. Her name was Mrs. Nelson. It was an amazing syllabus that she put together. And out of all the extraordinary books on the syllabus, The Sound and the Fury was the one that most resonated with me. And honestly, because I was a 16-year-old whose dad had just died, it resonated with me because I saw myself in one of the characters. Right. A sort of self-absorbed, narcissistic.
Right.
Because teenagers are by definition little narcissists. Right. Plus the tragedy had me kind of raw still. So I saw myself in Caddy Compson as a child who was a tomboy. Like her brother Quentin describes her. I need to memorize this quote because I think about it all the time. He says, she was never a princess or a fairy. She was always a king or a giant or a wizard or whatever.
Right.
So she was this tough little kid and smart and really in charge, presumably, of herself. And then it's sort of, as they grow older and the family starts unraveling, and yes, this once proud, prominent family has to sell off its last bit of land in order to send their oldest son to Harvard, which was considered, like to make up for not having land anymore. Have a Harvard-educated lawyer, presumably.
And it always has to be the boy.
Of course. But then there's also just the fact that this family was so concerned with status and money. And the youngest son, Jason, is this cheapskate who, wait for it.
Wait, everyone stop. Yeah.
He, years later, starts stealing money from his niece.
I don't know. I'm getting deja vu here. Yeah.
It's weird. And now, obviously, that wasn't a parallel back then.
Right.
That wasn't, as far as I knew anyway, that wasn't a thing. But, just the focus on money and the importance of money and how it Caddy ended up just running away from the family because of it. And then Quentin ended up committing suicide because he couldn't live up to the expectations that were placed upon him. That also sounds familiar.
Well, yeah, although with your father, of course.
He was killed. He didn't commit suicide. And then Caddy's daughter, who's also named Quentin, she leaves her behind with her incredibly dysfunctional grandmother and uncle. And, it all in some weird way, because it's certainly not a one-to-one correspondence.
Right.
But a lot of it resonated. It's also one of the most stunningly beautiful books ever written. It introduced me to a way of writing that I'd never imagined was possible. And it wasn't until I read Toni Morrison that I had that same experience.
Wow, yeah.
So anyway, long way of saying, it just, a lot of that stuff that happens, it's unconscious, and you find out decades later, like,
and you stick to it. Yeah, and you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
You then go to Adelphi, and you decide, I'm going to go into... Now, at this point, your uncle, Fuckface, is...
That's his middle name.
Yes. Is,
Yeah.
He's become the fuckface he is.
Yeah.
As he got so much more prominent, did it ever have like a shitty effect on you, like with people, like thinking, oh my God, she must live in a castle with, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In college, as I mentioned earlier, that's sort of when he started getting known outside of New York. So I noticed that after I dropped out and I dropped back in, people made assumptions about me.
Right.
That I was a snob. And I was really shy. I still am really shy. So that could come across as aloof.
Right.
And distant and snobbish. I was just shy. But people interpreted the other way because they thought I was so incredibly rich, which was another assumption that made me really uncomfortable because I never felt that. And I don't think I ever was. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was very fortunate in that way.
Right.
But, I grew up in Jamaica, Queens. So, I never felt particularly rich. Actually, the first time this happened, I was flying Eastern Airlines home for the weekend.
Oh my God, I remember Eastern Airlines.
The shuttle from Boston, from Logan to LaGuardia, probably.
Yeah.
It was like $35.
Yep.
So I needed to go home for some reason, and I wrote a check, and the guy behind the counter said, "So, you related?" And this is the first time I did this, and I've done it ever since. I said, "Nope." And he said, "Oh, well, of course, if you were, you'd have your own plane." I'm like, "Yeah, of course I would." So I never admitted to it after that. And what was really interesting is the older I got, the less people made the assumption. Pay with a credit card. I would always get asked the question. I'd always say no. But in my personal life, if I met people playing tennis or if I met people at grad school, nobody never thought twice.
They never even entered their,
ever. And when they found out, like I made sure I was good friends with them first.
Right.
And they were like, they never believed me.
Because you are so, like, I couldn't believe it. I think
that is a compliment, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Do you think you have a healthy relationship with money?
No.
Really?
No, not at all. I mean, obviously money's important, but I never wanted it to be important to me in the way it was to them.
Right.
I mean, healthy, yes, in the sense that I don't think having money makes you better.
Right.
I think having money makes you lucky, and it means that you should feel an obligation to give something back.
Give back.
You don't get rich in this fucking country without a lot of help.
Right.
Especially from the government, which apparently only believes in socialism for rich people. So in that sense, yes, healthy, but I take it a little too far. Like, I'm not the most responsible person I'm not extravagant.
Yeah, but it's not like you're like, you think it's the most important thing in the entire world.
Oh God, no. No.
Right.
No, I mean, it's important because
of course,
the society we live in.
Right.
Good luck surviving happily without it. And it's incredibly fortunate. I mean, I've gone through periods in my time, and I'm not comparing myself to people who are much worse rates, but there have been times when I've had to worry and be careful, and it's a horrible feeling. And
I know.
Multiply it times 1 billion, and that, right? Yeah, it's an awful feeling. But I'm just like, I'm not really good with it.
Right.
I don't.
Plus, you probably hate it on some level.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of Kill Me Now with the one and only Mary Trump. Now, if you like the show, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people find this incredibly amazing podcast with incredibly amazing guests. 5 stars only, please. Thank you. If you have not purchased my book, yes, I can say that when they come for the comedians, we're all in trouble. There's really something wrong with you because you're listening to my podcast, which means you already love me or you love my guest. And it means you need to read my book. It's great. And the audiobook was featured in New and Noteworthy in the New York Times Book Review. And as I've said before, it doesn't matter because my parents are dead. So please read my book. I'm going to read you a review. This is literally, I'm just going on Amazon. I'm reading a review. I was triggered. I was triggered by this book. I read this in one day, and I was disappointed when I got to the end. It does what a good book should do. It makes me want to learn more about the comedians the author discusses. The subject matter is so topical for the state of affairs today. I am worried about our future even more, if possible. Get over yourself and read this book. Okay? That's from Holly. I don't even know who Holly is. But all I know is that you need to read my book. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to go to my website, judygold.com, or wherever books are sold. But if you go to judygold.com and see my new website, on the homepage, all the order links are right there. You can go to an indie bookstore. You can go to wherever you love to buy books. And also, please make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram for all upcoming virtual. And I mean, I've done a couple of in-person, but I'm not really happy with that situation. But everything I'm doing, you can get that on my website, or I always post on Twitter and Instagram at Judy Gold, JEWDYGOLD. You know, like Jew Gold, because I'm Jewish. I wish you all health, happiness. Please vote. Please vote. I don't care. I'll pick you up and drive you there. If you're voting for Trump, none of this, don't listen to anything I'm saying. and get off my podcast. But listen, it's coming, and it's coming soon. Thank you all for listening. And as we always say, so long!
Don't forget to tune in next week to Just Kill Me Now.
It's Just Kill Me.
Oh. Don't forget to turn for part 2 on Just Kill Me.
No, it's not. It's
Just Kill Me.
No.
Judy Gold's Just Kill Me.
Just.
Just Kill Me Now.